Over on Jaguar Gator 8, a new college football video is out. In this video, we talk about the 2005 MPC Computers Bowl between Boston College and Boise State, where the bowl organizers and officials treated Boston College so poorly that they had to publicly apologize for their actions. Click the card in the upper right corner to watch. Also, join me tonight on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern, where we'll play a very special edition of NFL Draft Trivia for a chance to win cash prizes. Link to play below. And now, on with our feature presentation. Usually, when a team spends a high draft pick on a quarterback, there's one person in particular that is upset about this. And as you might have guessed, that person is the current starting quarterback. In the eyes of the starting quarterback, a rookie quarterback is just about the worst possible pick that a team can make. You can only play one quarterback at a time, so either he's never seeing the field and he's not helping you win games, or he's taking your job. Starting quarterbacks love it when teams draft offensive linemen and wide receivers and tight ends and players like that. Drafting a quarterback is the worst case scenario, and we've seen plenty of quarterbacks, like Aaron Rodgers, be furious when this happens. Sometimes they'll put on a brave face, but we all know what they're really thinking, as they use the same buzzwords about competing that we've all become accustomed to. Which is what makes this situation all the more bizarre. This is Carolina Panthers quarterback Jake Delhomme, and at the 2005 NFL Draft, he was actively encouraging the Panthers to draft a quarterback. This quarterback wasn't even his collegiate teammate or anything like that. He just liked the guy so much that he was pounding the table begging Carolina to take him, even though it meant that his starting job was on the line. And even though if Delhomme was starting, there was no way whatsoever that the draft pick could have helped the team win games sitting on the bench. I'm not sure we're ever going to see a situation like this again, especially considering how poorly this one played out when all was said and done. This is the story behind the weirdest draft request in the history of the Carolina Panthers franchise. Before I talk about the actual pick in question and what the Panthers did on draft day, we need some context to understand just who this player is, and the bizarre chain of events leading up to the draft that really helped expedite this process. In 2004, the Louisville Cardinals had what was quite easily at the time their best season in program history. They finished the season with a record of 11-1, which was the most wins that they ever had in a season, and was their highest winning percentage since 1947, when they went 7-0-1. They won Conference USA with a perfect 8-0 record, making it the first time since 1970 when they were in the Missouri Valley Conference that they finished the season undefeated in conference play. Their only loss was an incredible 41-38 contest on the road against number 3 ranked Miami, which was such a good outing that despite the loss, the Cardinals didn't drop in the rankings. And after winning the Liberty Bowl, they finished the season ranked number 6 in the AP poll, which was their highest ranking ever, and still remains the record for best end-of-season ranking in program history. Their final season in Conference USA, before they left for the Big East, could not have been scripted better. And perhaps the biggest reason why they were so successful was because of the play of this man right here. This is quarterback Stefan LeFors, and he was commanding the greatest offense in college football, as in 2004, Louisville averaged an almost unfathomable 49.8 points per game, which led the entire NCAA. For some perspective on how great that is, if Louisville played another game and scored 7 touchdowns while hitting all their extra points, their points per game average would actually go down. They scored 52 or more points in 7 of their 12 games, and the only 2 times they scored less than 38 points, they shut out their opponents, beating North Carolina 34-0 and beating in-state rival Kentucky 28-0. And LeFors was the man in charge of this attack, as he finished the season as an extremely accurate passer. He was named the Conference USA Player of the Year and won the Sammy Baugh Trophy, given to the nation's best passer. He threw 20 touchdowns and just 3 interceptions. When you're throwing 257 passes in a season, and you throw a pick on just 3 of those attempts, or once every 86 passing attempts, that's insanely good. He not only led Conference USA by averaging 10.1 yards per pass attempt, but he led all of college football in this category as well. He not only led Conference USA by completing 73.5% of his passes, but he led the entire NCAA in this category as well. And he not only led all of Conference USA with a passer rating of 181.7, but he led the entire NCAA in this category as well. College football does passer rating differently than the NFL, but if you took his stats and put them in the NFL calculator, his passer rating in 2004 was an absurdly high 126.5. For some perspective on how good that is, the highest passer rating ever recorded in a single season was when Aaron Rodgers had a rating of 122.5 in 2011. And the good times don't stop there. I would be here all day if I listed every single accolade that LeFors won in his career, but here are just some of the highlights. His 73.5% completion percentage was not only a school record, but at the time, was the second highest completion percentage by a quarterback in NCAA history, only behind Dante Culpepper of UCF in 1998. His passer rating of 181.7 set an NCAA record at the time for highest passer rating in history. At one point, he went 173 consecutive passes without an interception, which was too shy of the school record for the longest streak. And at the time his career ended, he was second in school history in 400-plus yard passing games, only behind Chris Redman. Obviously, Lamar Jackson's 2016 season where he won the Heisman was the greatest season by any quarterback in Louisville history. But if you were trying to pick the second best, he's got a pretty good argument here for what he did in 2004. After such a good season, it was very clear that he was going to be drafted, and was going to have a chance to play in the NFL. The only question was just where he would wind up, as the knock against him was that he was not particularly tall, as he was only 6 feet. Mel Kiper Jr. said that if LeFors was a couple of inches taller, then he probably would be a first-round pick, which was high praise in a draft class where Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers were projected to fly off the board. Still, he had LeFors as the 6th best quarterback on his board, so somewhere around a 3rd-round pick or a 4th-round pick. He went through some private workouts with 6 teams, and his draft status, both in terms of when and where he would go, was a complete mystery. But for Carolina Panthers quarterback Jake Delhomme, he wanted to solve the mystery himself, because he wanted LeFors to play for the Panthers. On the surface, something like this seems unbelievably bizarre. Why the heck would a starting quarterback, in the prime of his career, want his team to draft a quarterback who obviously could not help the team whatsoever if Delhomme was starting? And no, Delhomme wasn't exactly in any danger of losing his starting job heading into the 2005 season, but there was a stretch in 2004 where for the quarterback who only became a starter in 2003 at the age of 28, it was looking like he could ride the pine, especially if Carolina had a solid replacement on its hands. During a 4-game stretch in 2004, the Panthers went 0-4. Delhomme started all 4 of those games, completed just 56% of his passes, and threw 2 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, while posting a passer rating of 58.5. In one of those games, a 30-8 loss against the Philadelphia Eagles, where the only points scored by Carolina came in garbage time, with the Panthers trailing 23-0 with 3 minutes left, Delhomme threw 4 interceptions and finished the game with a passer rating of 38.4, which is worse than if he did nothing but spike the ball into the ground on every single play. And the following week against the San Diego Chargers, the Panthers did not score a touchdown. They were held without a score on their final 9 drives of the game, and Delhomme completed just 47.8% of his passes. After a stretch like that where you pretty much have to change things up, if the Panthers had a quality rookie quarterback or a quality backup option waiting in the wings, you could bet that Delhomme would be riding the pine. Or at the very least, the calls for him to get benched would intensify. His job was by no means completely secure. Well, Delhomme didn't really care about that. He was pounding the table for the Panthers to take him. He heard nothing but rave reviews from coaches about how he interviewed at the Combine. That was when Delhomme was starting to get excited about him, as immediately after hearing those reports, he said, "He's the kind of guy that we need here." Delhomme spent time in the offseason talking to the coaches, especially quarterbacks coach Mike McCoy, and raved about who he called the kid from Louisville, and said that he told Mike that this is exactly the guy that the team needs. But still, it didn't seem like there was going to be a whole lot of interest in LeFors. After all, the Panthers didn't invite him for a private workout. Then came somewhat of a bombshell, because 1 week before the draft, Rodney Peete, the starting quarterback of the Panthers in 2002, and the team's backup in 2003 and 2004, announced his retirement. Peete was a free agent in 2005, as the Panthers cut him to save some money with the intention of bringing him back on a smaller contract. After a 16-year career, which is incredible for anyone, let alone a 6th-round pick, he was hanging it up to pursue a career in media, doing things like radio shows and Lipazine commercials. This meant that the Panthers didn't really have a quality option as a backup, as Chris Weinke, who won 1 out of 16 games he started in his career and had a touchdown to interception ratio of 1-2, was not exactly the next man that you want up. And to make matters even crazier in this whole story, all this time that Delhomme was going to bat for LeFors, he had no idea that the 2 men were related. That's right, they were family members. Bet you didn't see that plot twist coming, did you? The 2 men had no idea that they were related. LeFors' wife, Joy, had an aunt who was married to Delhomme's first cousin, so they were distant relatives. However, while LeFors was at his home in Baton Rouge, He went to an Easter Sunday celebration at Breaux Bridge, where Delhomme lives. There, the two men found out that they were related. By complete coincidence, and unbeknownst to him, the man that Delhomme was pounding the table for this whole time was a distant relative of his. And the two men got along extremely well at the celebration, and ate crawfish together, with Delhomme even joking that he was way more Cajun than LeFors was. Delhomme called LeFors a good old boy, with LeFors joking, "I'm not as bad as he is." And before the two men parted, Delhomme made sure to continue to advocate for him to come over, saying, "If you get lucky enough to be drafted by Carolina, it will be an easy transition. I'll tell you the ins and outs and what you need to know." LeFors felt the same way upon meeting Delhomme, as he flat out loved the guy, saying, "It was great meeting him. He's a great guy. After leaving his house, me and my wife said, man, it would be great to go there just because of him." Once that happened, the plans continued to spin in motion to try and get the Panthers to draft LeFors. Delhomme was already advocating hard for him, but now that he met the guy personally by complete coincidence and got along incredibly well with him, and now that the Panthers maybe needed to upgrade their quarterback room following Ronnie Pete's departure to make drug commercials you see at 3 a.m. on cable television, Delhomme made it his #1 mission to convince head coach John Fox, quarterbacks coach Mike McCoy, and everyone else in the front office to draft him. Screw the fact that he could beat me out for the starting job down the road. Screw the fact that he could replace me. We need this guy in Carolina. And sure enough, both Delhomme and LeFors got their wish. Because in the 4th round, with pick number 121, the Panthers took Louisville quarterback Stefan LeFors, making him the 8th quarterback off the board. Oddly enough, this was the second Louisville player that the Panthers drafted that year, as in the 2nd round, they spent a pick on running back Eric Sheldon. I talked about the bizarre process behind that pick in a previous video of mine, so if you want to learn more about that, and how he fell down draft boards because of a criminal record, which he did not have, click the card in the upper right corner. But now, Stefan LeFors and Jake Delhomme, shortly after finding out that they were family off the field, were now family on it. Unfortunately, I can't say that this story has a happy ending, because Stefan LeFors was about as effective of a quarterback in the NFL as Stefan from Saturday Night Live. When the Panthers drafted LeFors, they were hoping that he would be a worthy backup to Delhomme. The team in general had a pretty bad track record when it came to drafting quarterbacks. The last one they drafted was Randy Fasani in 2002, and he threw no touchdowns and 4 interceptions while completing 34% of his passes. The one before that was Chris Wanke, who was awful and was a 29-year-old rookie. If you want to learn more about old rookies, click the card in the upper right corner. The one before that was Jerry Colquitt, who never played in the NFL. And the one before that, and the first pick in franchise history, was Kerry Collins, who was, shall we say, a mixed bag, who, while talented, was off the Panthers after 3.5 seasons. And that was their entire history at drafting quarterbacks up until that point. Maybe LeFors could break the cycle and be the first one to actually live up to his draft status. Or he could be a complete bust and never play a single down in a regular season game. Unfortunately for Carolina, that's exactly what happened. He didn't play a single snap in 2005, and before the start of the 2006 season, the Panthers cut him, which left the team with only 2 quarterbacks on their active roster. Today, that might not seem like a big deal, but back in 2006, it was custom for teams to carry 3 guys, so for a team to cut a draft pick after 1 year and opt to not carry a 3rd quarterback was quite the statement. LeFors spent some time in the Canadian Football League with the Edmonton Eskimos and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but never played another down in professional football at any level after the 2009 season, although he has stayed in the game since his retirement, serving as a highly successful high school football coach. While the whole situation did not work out for the Panthers in the end, it's still somewhat shocking to see a scenario like this. How many times do you genuinely see a quarterback begging the team to draft another quarterback? How many times do you genuinely see a quarterback pounding the draft table to have his team select the man that will likely be his replacement and will put the pressure on him? And sure, you can make the argument that Delhomme thought that the Panthers were going to draft a quarterback anyways, so he wanted them to draft one that he knew he could vibe with. But Delhomme was doing all this before the Easter incident, and before he even knew that they were related, so that doesn't entirely add up. For Delhomme to make the request for the team to draft a man that could be his replacement, could knock him out of a starting job, could cost him millions of dollars down the road, and could not help the team in any way whatsoever if he was playing well, might be the strangest, and yet the most selfless draft request of all time. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaguarGator9. To see college football videos, subscribe to JaguarGator8. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.